Good evening, everyone. Today I have with me Dr. Jamal Kennedy, the assistant principal at Northside Elementary School in Grady County, county located in South Georgia. I have the privilege to interview this guy. Um, I've known Jamal for the past, well, I'm sorry, I've known Dr. Kennedy for the past 3 years. And it's just an honor to be able to interview this young man that sits in such a um, wonderful role as a leader. I am trying to gain a greater understanding of the leadership role and how he views leadership, and to see how he practiced the relational leadership, or whether he follows another theory in leadership. So here we are. How you doing, Mr. Dr. Kennedy?
Doing pretty good.
I'm glad you was able to come in on a short request, short notice, and that there shows, what kind of person that you are. And I thank you for being here. I have a couple of questions I would like to ask you. Um, and I would like to start off with this one here. I would like to ask you first, what is your personal biographical background?
All right. So first I will say, I was raised in Albany, Georgia. I attended Albany State University, where I earned my Bachelor's of Arts degree in political science. I went on to get my master's from Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then, of course, I went on to get my doctorate in 2018 from Columbus State University in curriculum and leadership. So for the last 14 years, I have worked in education. I've taught grades 4, 5, 6. I've taught at the college level. I've taught reading, language arts, and social studies over the 14 years. I've had the opportunity to serve as an academic coach for 2 years. And my current role is assistant principal at Northside Elementary, as you mentioned. I also teach in the School of Education at Liberty University, and I teach in the Department of History and Political Science at Albany State University. I'm also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, where I serve as the chapter president. I am a published author. I have published a few articles in educational journals. I also enjoy doing critical research in education. And so I've had the opportunity to publish in quite a few journals over the last few years. And I think that's pretty much it when it comes to my biographical background.
Mm. So we can truly say that with those experiences, how did it shape how did those experiences shape you as a leader? Because I mean that was uh, uh, a long list of accomplishments that you have. How did the experience of those years of teaching and experience shape your leadership or shape you as a leader?
Well, when I first started teaching, I guess just to kind of rewind a little bit, I started teaching when I was 21. I was actually 21 and a half when I first started teaching. And I started teaching at elementary level. And so that very first year, I served as the department chair and the response to intervention team leader. So even as a first year teacher, and so even within that first year, when it came to uh, standardized test scores, my students scored in the 92 percentile range. So I guess ever since my first year all the way up until now, uh, I could always see myself as a leader. I knew I did not want to stay in the classroom for 30 years, but I did know that I wanted to serve in some capacity in education eventually. So through those various roles that I mentioned earlier, as academic coach, being a teacher mentor, serving on the district curriculum team, all of those experiences basically helped to shape me as a leader. And I think each experience was a different experience, but it
Uh-huh.
allowed me to gain some type of confidence in different areas as I was seeking to become an educational leader. And so, in my current role, I'm able to use all of those experiences, which have basically shaped me as shaped the leader that I am today. And
Mm,
so, some of those experiences, as I mentioned, have allowed me to pour into in others around me, allowed me
mhm.
to basically be the change that I wish to see in the educational community. I have a passion for literacy. I also have a passion for closing the reading achievement gap, specifically of Black African American males. And so through those experiences that I mentioned and through my passion for working to close the literacy gaps in education, I think all of that has shaped me, has shaped the leader that I've been able to become. And so hopefully within the next year or two, hopefully I'll be able to become a school principal and eventually move to the district level.
Mm, mm. And that's wonderful. That is wonderful, and very inspiring, especially for me, just to hear that, and that's the purpose and the passion that we all would like to hear and experience, from teachers. Because when we were growing up, when I was growing up, I remember people used to go into the teacher education field because they wanted to be teachers. Nowadays it seems as if you know these young folks coming up, they getting into it because they see that they have the weekends off and they have summer breaks and holiday breaks, and kind of lost track of the purpose behind being an educator. So that's just great to hear. Um, so so in other words, you was called into leadership, and you seeked it because was it a conviction, or was it something that I mean, from the sound of things, it's like you already had a passion. So I figured that it wasn't a conviction.
No, as I guess as I mentioned earlier, uh, I always felt like I was called to lead. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
even as at an early age, I never, uh, I never, well, at first, I knew I had to follow someone and listen to somebody along the way, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually I knew that I would be serving as a leader, because what I always do and what I've always done in my life is what I do. I'll set 5 year goals, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll set 3 year goals. And so, like right now, as I just mentioned with the last question, that my goal in the next 2 years is to become a school principal. So I think that drive along and just having a plan for success, is important. So all of the experiences that I mentioned, just growing up as number one, growing up as an African American male, helped me to actually discover my purpose in life. I knew that I didn't want to be a product of the environment that I grew up in. I knew that I had to be bigger than the environment that I grew up in. And
Mm-hmm.
so uh growing up, with my mom and working in education and working in the schools, I always had those people around me that motivated me to actually want to do well and want to serve in education. So I knew ever since the age of probably about 7 or 8 that I
Mm-hmm.
would be an educator, or that I would serve in education in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so through the experiences that I mentioned, they've allowed me to basically thrive in the field of education. And over time, I will say that even though I've been fortunate enough to move up, over the years in education, I
Mm-hmm.
attribute most of that success to my upbringing with my parents and mentors in education that I have. And I think my drive and willingness to want to give back to the community
Mm-hmm.
has also allowed me to discover my purpose for life. And so, because if I had went into education for just for the money, I
Mm-hmm.
probably would have been left education. And so, I guess even with going through some of the roughest years of my career,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that kept me, or one of the things that helped me to continue to discover my purpose in life was actually being able to give back to the community, being able to give back to the kids, being able to work, work on shifting into leadership through my various experiences. And so I will say that my success in education, it has not been it has not been happenstance, but it's been more so a divine journey that basically I will say occurred naturally.
Okay, okay, okay. So as you view leadership, uh, as you view leadership, and you kind of answer this question, this next question that I had for you, kind of already kind of answered this for me. But were there any beliefs that kind of inform or curve your behavior as a leader on how you view leadership?
Well, I guess I'll go back to your initial overview that you gave, and uh you mentioned me, am I a relational leader or am I
Mm-hmm.
a leader by theory?
Mm-hmm.
And so I will say that actually a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because I'm a leader of theory because I strive to be a transformational leader. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you know anything about a transformational leader seeks to be the change or be an example of the change and that they wish to see in everyone around them. And so, being able to do that has allowed me to transform some educational environments that I've been in. And then on the flip side of that, I am a relational leader. And so, when I say relational leader is, when you hang around when you hang around other leaders, you want to become a leader. And
Mm-hmm.
so I do believe that there's power in relationships. It's power in building positive relationships
Mm-hmm.
because when I think about my journey into leadership, I don't think I would have made it into leadership with my credentials and experiences alone. I had to take my credentials and experiences along, but I also had to listen to somebody along the way. And then on top of that, I had to build lasting, meaningful relationships with individuals that were in positions that I was seeking to be in. And so I think that's why I would say that I'm more of a mixture of a relational leader and a transformational leader.
Mm-hmm. That's man, you just seem to amaze me. The more and more you talk, the more we talk. Um, well, I have two more questions for you, and we can wrap this up. The next question would be, how do you communicate with people at your job?
So of course, in my role as assistant principal, there's only one other person in the building that's basically what I refer to as my immediate supervisor. That's the school principal. And so many times, the school principal is not in the building. And so anytime the school principal is not in the building, of course, as my role as assistant principal is to assist the school principal.
Mm-hmm.
And assist the school principal in carrying out the mission and the vision of the school. And so when it comes to communication, it's important that it's transparent. It's also important that it's fluid. It's important that it's given in such a way that it'll be received in a positive light, because sometimes we can communicate, especially particularly with adults. We can communicate with good intentions, but it can be
Mm-hmm.
received in a manner with bad intentions. And so that's why it's important that you build relationships with the staff members in the building, because
Mm-hmm.
then you learn how they basically like to communicate. Some people in the schools or this organization, they like emails. You can email them and communicate with them. Some teachers don't like emails, so you just have to kind of build those relationships and build that rapport to be able to figure out how each teacher best like to communicate. Now I know a lot of stuff has to be emailed, but when it comes to personal issues, when it comes to corrective feedback, when it comes to anything dealing with instruction, you just really have to get to know your personnel. And I think knowing your personnel will help you to become a better and more fluid and overall a more effective communicator. So that's pretty much how I communicate within my school.
Okay. And the last question to wrap up this interview, um, how do you get people at your job to work on one accord together towards a common purpose?
Well, as an educational leader, in my role, it's important that I don't forget that I was a classroom teacher yesterday, just yesterday. And I think taking on that attitude has helped me in leadership because, for example, if I have teachers that are struggling,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm the assistant principal of the school, it is not beneath me to go in the classroom and work alongside a teacher, in the trenches with students or work with students that are struggling, in the school. So I think building that relationship and allowing my teachers to see me as still as an educator has helped us to all work towards a common purpose. On the
Mm-hmm.
flip side of that, as an educational leader, it comes to a point where you have to give consequences. And so once teachers, get the notion that, okay, my leader, or my assistant principal is willing to do everything that has asked me to do, and nothing is beneath him or her, they're more likely to work together towards the common purpose. And so I guess in closing, I would say it's important that you have a clear focus in the beginning of the school year, so your teachers and your faculty and staff, they know the direction in which you're trying to go in. You have to be transparent, and you also have to make sure that everyone in the educational community is aware of the goals, specific goals for the school, and basically actually understand what the end game is. And so I think that helps everyone to work towards a common purpose when they know what the goals are for the school.
Well, there you go, people. You heard it from the man himself, Dr. Jamal Kennedy. It's been a blessing. I thank you and I appreciate you for being an example for our young men and women of today's society. Again, I'm Mr. Corey Bryant, and we're here with Dr. Jamal Kennedy. Thank you. God bless, and y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening.